make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local Lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, $3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.
Welcome into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. We are Quaker Steak and Lube in State College, getting ready for what is going to be a really fun and busy Penn State sports weekend. Penn State hockey taking on Notre Dame on Friday night, Saturday afternoon. The Nittany Lion basketball team will host Nebraska Saturday afternoon at 2:30, and then we have Penn State wrestling at the Jordan Center against Michigan tomorrow night, and then in Rec Hall against Michigan State on Sunday. So lots going on, and of course it is NFL playoff weekend with the AFC and NFC championship game participants being determined, and also some pretty good college basketball action, NHL action, et cetera, et cetera. And I suppose
there's no such thing
for
as
those
the
following the
anymore.
NBA,
there's no such thing as the NHL. Even though the Flyers actually have been playing, they're playing themselves right out of the top draft pick. So I mean, of course, there's an absolute star, dynamic, generational talent coming out, and of course they're going to get hot mid-season and get like the 9th pick this year instead of like the 3rd or 4th. You know, yeah, it is what it is.
It is one of those situations Friday night where I truly do wish you could be at two places at the same time, because I really would love to see the Notre Dame Penn State hockey game. Obviously, I'll be otherwise occupied, and I will be enjoying myself with it. But, the weekend for the hockey team, it's about as big as it gets, not necessarily because Notre Dame is, although they are, I mean, it's a good hockey game and a good hockey team, but it's Penn State, Notre Dame, man. And Penn State, Notre Dame and anything is exciting and fun. And, when you add everything else into it here with the hockey program and what it has going on, I just think this is a real opportunity for them to kind of see some momentum here this weekend. You're going in hoping that they can get a couple of W's out of it. And again, if that happens, I think it can kind of be a springboard here toward a terrific finish to what has been a really good season to this point for Guy Godowski's squad.
Yeah, and usually we always talk about how Guy gets his guys ramped up and ready for the Big Ten and the playoff push and stuff like that. Well, they gelled a lot earlier than they normally have in the past few years here. Yeah. So they've been actually pretty dominant throughout the whole season. And, to be honest, last week was sort of a hiccup going to Michigan State and, tie and then a regulation, not a regulation tie, whatever. The overtime loss and then a shootout loss. So they only got one point or something like that. But, the old adage, you don't want to get swept on the road. You got to win at least one, and you sweep it home type of thing. So, but but that's the way the hockey's go. But yeah, I mean, he is such a good coach, and we know Alan here, and Alan give me a lot of the input or the inside story of it, and how hard the kids have bought in, and how hard they're working and stuff like that, and how much they love playing for him. And it's an exciting weekend coming up. The next few weekends will be pretty exciting around here. But I mean, the wrestling thing, I mean, that's 1 versus 4. I know we'll get more into it, but I mean, you're talking, this is a national championship type of thing right now. I mean, with the talent that's going to be on the mats on Friday night. So very much looking forward to that. But I mean, I asked Chris if is hockey on NBC Sports maybe, and then wrestling on Big Ten Network. I'd love to watch them both at the same time, like you just said. And I was like, well, I said, man, they're probably on the same channel, so that's sort of screwy. And then basketball. I mean, they the bugaboos they got to get out at the Kohl Center in Wisconsin is just insane. They're a better team than that, and coming this weekend they got a big game on Saturday versus Nebraska. So I mean they can play tough at home, win that game, and get right back into it. My opinion.
Yeah, the Wisconsin game was frustrating just on a number of different levels. Obviously, the fact that they've never won there. Somebody should pass it along to the Big Ten Network. Maybe they can mention it next time Penn State's at Wisconsin.
Yeah. In between their Jim Harbaugh updates, they can mention that maybe.
But and listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the officiating is the reason Penn State lost, but man, did they have some really tough calls. I won't even necessarily say they were bad. They looked bad to me, but at the end of the day, they're debatable. But man, there were like 3 or 4 down the stretch that all went Wisconsin's way, which just seems to be a general trend in this conference
over the last 3 decades,
when it comes to football and basketball in particular. Although it was interesting, I was in getting ready for the broadcast tomorrow night for Penn State Michigan wrestling. Do you know that? And now I'm going to mix up the numbers here a bit, but I believe it is 4 of the last 7 and 3 of the last 5 meetings. No, that's not right. It's 5 of the last 7 and 4 of the last 6 meetings on the wrestling mat between Penn State and Michigan have been in Ann Arbor.
Really?
Yeah, which is
similar know better than us.
Is similar to the Iowa numbers, which is just one of those things that makes you scratch your head a little bit about
opening on the road.
Think kind of over a 10-year period, it would be 5-5, right? Or 4-4, depending on how many times you meet. But with both Iowa and Michigan, it tilts the other way. It's just, again, one of those.
They're still talking. It's a tough place to get to, and that's the reason why they have to do it. We're a hard place to fly into. I mean,
that makes you go,
That's crazy.
Just wonder about that.
You wish we had somebody in up top who's going to complain about that. So we'll put that on the list.
Penn State needed to, obviously make some more shots down the stretch. Had a couple of great looks. I mean, sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. But man, the difference in the feeling, and it's not that I'm down on the program, but man, if they had won that game, you get that first win in Wisconsin, in the momentum that this team would be sailing into the Nebraska game with. It just would be a different feel. Again, I think the crowd is going to be into it, and
now it makes
I think this is
a must-win.
Yeah, almost a must-win. Yeah,
you don't want to ever put that on the players and say, "Hey, we got to go out there." Yeah. But this is one of those times. It's like, hey, we put ourselves in a situation. We have to go out there and perform right now.
Well, at home. I mean, you have to take care of business with those.
I did hear that they have opened up and started selling tickets to in the upstairs.
Yeah, there's. I do think this is going to be a really good crowd, and we've talked about. I mean, Saturday afternoon is fantastic for everybody throughout the state, and the fact that it's on a weekend where you have a lot of hockey fans coming in for the Penn State Notre Dame series, you have a lot of wrestling fans. I'm talking about outside of the area coming into town. Like all of that adds, a lot of fuel to the fire. But yeah, having a 2:30 game on a Saturday afternoon where even from 3 hours away, you could, if you want, you can come in and out on the same day.
In
It's a pretty nice situation.
Dinner, head home.
Yep.
You can't do that on a Tuesday through or Monday through Friday night, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Very
for
difficult.
A night game. You
for
have an afternoon
most
game, it's possible.
People.
I mean, but hell, what a weekend to come up. I mean, you got some serious talent up here. Notre Dame's Notre Dame. It's a blue blood program, and no matter what sport it is, we always have that. Half of Pennsylvania is Notre Dame. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Notre Dame fans in Pittsburgh, Notre Dame fans in Harrisburg and Philadelphia. So, again, and then you get the Michigan thing. I mean, the wrestling, I don't care. You could be wrestling Lock Haven at the Bryce Jordan Center, and it's going to sell out. You know what I mean? It's going to be an electric atmosphere. But now you put the number 4 team in the country out there, and then, you say before, Kale doesn't exactly love it, but the players do, the wrestlers do. I mean, that's 17,000 people, and
I think 16,000 to be precise.
On paper.
But here's the other part of I think tomorrow night. Well, a couple of other parts to it. Obviously, it's a stacked lineup, but it'll also be the first time Levi Haynes will wrestle, presumably in a Penn State singlet at home. Although it is 1 versus 4 in the dual meet rankings and 1 versus 3 in the coaches rankings, although it's 1 versus what are they down to? Something like 12 or 14 now, I think, in the tournament rankings, which is just interesting. But when you look at the matchups, Goon, I'm not predicting this. I'm not saying it will happen, but it is certainly within the realm of possibility that Penn State could run the table in the final 9 bouts. There is not a bout there in the final 9 where if everybody wrestles. Now it's not if Alex Facundo wrestles at 165. But if Facundo wrestles at 65, again, it comes down to matchups, and just Penn State matches up well against Michigan.
I just saw on Twitter, hot take from Jeff Byers, Penn State will win 9 of 10 matches. Unbelievable.
But it's similar to last year, right? Michigan had obviously a terrific team, won the Big Ten title, and Penn State won, what was it, 8 of the 10 bouts last year in the dual meet. So, for dual meets, it just comes down to the matchups, and where Michigan's strong, Penn State is really strong. Michigan has a chance to take a real opportunity at 125, and Penn State again could certainly lose 3 or 4 fairly easily. I think 49, 57, and 65 are all just going to be really fun bouts to watch. And, is there a path to victory there for Michigan? Sure. They need everything, I think, to break right. But, could they pull an upset at 41? Could Mason Paris reverse the fortunes of a year ago against Greg Kirkley? All of that stuff is possible. But I think when you look at the most likely scenario, again, I think Penn State wins 7 or 8 bouts if everybody goes for the Nittany Lions tomorrow night.
How sometimes they flop it and then want their big match to be last, but this is the one where actually the heavyweight will be the biggest match.
Yeah,
and a lot may come down to it, or it might not come down to it.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out, but I think going in, Penn State, I think, certainly likes the matchups, and the ones where there are questions or toss-ups, I think, again, win or lose, it's just going to be beneficial for the Penn State freshmen to get the matches that they'll get tomorrow night under their belt as we make the turn here toward the stretch run and the postseason.
Done. How many years is this now in the BJC? Has Michigan been here before for it?
Yeah,
I know I've seen Ohio State, Iowa once or twice.
Yeah, Michigan was here in the Jordan Center once previously under Cal. I don't think they were here at the BJC before Cal, so I think they've only wrestled one.
Was it a
Jordan
night
Center?
Because I remember there was usually Sunday afternoons they put them. I remember one Sunday afternoon, I believe it was 15. and I believe that was Michigan. I'm not asking you, but
this is
a Friday night where you're going to have a lot of people that are just fired up and wound up more so than
I think for the kids on
Sunday
both
afternoon.
teams, it's just a fun atmosphere. I mean, I think that's the one thing. I think all of these kids love the opportunity to be in front of that type of atmosphere and get the chance on that type of
I love it.
stage.
I love Kale's. I mean, he doesn't love it, but he knows that his kids love it, so he's cool with it. You know, and I'm not saying he doesn't.
Well, there's also
a
financial component to it.
Sure, there definitely is
for sure.
But he reminds me of Joe, where it's just like he would rather just play in the backyard and nobody there. You know, I mean, just or at least in the smaller rec hall, everybody right on top of them, having that big time home court advantage.
Yeah,
he doesn't want the fire, the smoke, the guys coming out of the you know what I mean. That's not really his shtick, but it is what the guys like, so he's cool with it. So it is a pretty cool damn thing. And so before we get to the NFL, what's your feeling
on
wrestling? Are you allowed to, or are you going to be Kirk Herbstreit? I can't make a prediction here. I'm not.
No, I think Penn State will win the dual meet, and I think dual meet score wise, it'll be a fairly comfortable margin. I mean, I going in, I think Penn State will win 7 or 8 of the individual bouts, and again, I really do think they have a chance to run the table in the final 9. That being said, I think the dual meet score is going to be a little misleading because I think there's going to be some terrific wrestling, and I do think there's going to be some really competitive matches. I'm hoping Alex Facundo is able to go because I think he and Cameron Amin, I think it'll give you a real feel for exactly where Facundo is right now.
Does it Amin wrestling in Michigan?
I know it's
912th season in a row.
Hard to believe.
I'm new to the sport and I even know that.
Yeah, but I think that I think it's just going to be a fun night for wrestling, and again, it's just another building block toward the ultimate goals here for the individuals, but should be a lot of fun here.
I literally it just popped into my head because there is a big difference in wrestling and football and how it's handled, type of thing. Will they go to class on Friday?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, they're wrestling Friday night.
I mean, the Penn State kids will. The Michigan kids will.
You know what I'm saying, though? Like, if we had a game Saturday, we would obviously be in school Friday, then we would leave afterwards. But if we had a game on Friday night, we would be in a different hotel type of thing. They're going to bust us out of town and get us away from all the the idiots. You know what I mean? That's I never thought. I mean, it literally just popped in my head. Like, man, you know, these guys having to go to class, and then 6 hours later they're wrestling. Different sport, different thing, I guess. Cool, though.
Are you hearing anything, Goon, as far as Penn State? Because I'm getting asked left and right, and I'm not, but I'm not. Don't have my ear to the ground at the moment to the football program, but with the wide receiver coach situation. And again, I was on a podcast earlier this week, and we were just talking about with the 2 transfers and kind of what that receiving core is looking like next year. There's a couple of things that I think are in play, and I don't know how much the timing did seem really
very
curious, right? That you have the announcement of Stubblefield's departure and being let go by the program, and 1 hour later, within a couple of hours, you have 2 transfers coming in.
I don't know what
at the wide receiver spot. That seems like it's unlikely to be just a coincidence, but if so. I don't know exactly what the reasoning is, because again, if it was, hey, we know that this receiver coach is coming in, you would think that receiver coach would have been named by now. So I don't think that was necessarily the case. That being said, the opportunity to play with a Drew Aller and with a program that is clearly going to be a top 10 team next year, I think my guess is it'll be a consensus 5-6 type of preseason ranking. I suspect there will be some polls that'll have Penn State as high as 3 or 4.
Wow.
I don't think there will be many, if any, that have them outside the top 10.
No,
Pitt would have them there. With the momentum. Yeah, nor do there may be an individual ballot,
sure,
or two.
No, I think the 5, 6, 7 is the right place. Seeing that Florida State is now in that top 5, top 10 area with us. I mean, I'm talking about the way too early predictions for next year. You got your normals in there. I mean, Georgia ain't going to go anywhere until they get the throne. So you get your Alabama, your USC will be up there. But, I really think the 5, 6, or 7 is the right place to be. Then they got to throw Texas A&M in there. I mean, even though they haven't had a winning season in 3 years, they're going to have them in the top 5 probably again, just so they can stink up the joint. But, but him, and with that being said, is what you said earlier, James doesn't make moves without thinking stuff through.
Yes.
So he has to have something in he was not going to replace Stubblefield without having
some
somebody.
idea.
And people have been calling me about Bobby Ingram because he just got released as the OC of Wisconsin. He was, and I don't know. I had put feelers out there to my friends and this and that. Everybody's hush hush. So maybe it is a possibility. I don't know. When this stuff happens, I don't directly call the guy.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't send Bobby a message. I know he's busy and all. I mean, but I've also heard that Bobby was in the NFL ranks for 10 plus years and then did the college thing for it lasted a season. Then he's, maybe he might go back to pro route. I don't know. So, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know, but I do know that James would never make a decision like that without having a plan in place. But the guy's committing within an hour, the top transfer portal coming in. Within 12 hours, the second, the Florida State kid transferring in. They have to know something because they're not going to have Stubblefield recruit them and then they fire him and then they're going to commit then. So you have to think there's something is already in line, and we don't know what that is. I mean, how this world works now. So we're talking about recruiting weekend because this was a big recruiting weekend.
Yeah,
and from the looks of it, I mean, was it a transfer portal weekend or was it a high school football recruiting weekend? Or do they blend into the same thing now?
Yeah.
What a freaking world, Ironhead.
Well, and I suspect that is part of what has to happen.
We have talked about it since NIL came out. We talk about NIL now. And that was what Booch said. If you have a $50 million or $10 million recruiting budget, how much of that budget's going towards high school recruiting and how much of that budget's going towards transfer portal recruiting? Because it's a huge thing. And if this is going to be a thing with the transfer portal, as I said from the start, why would you take a risk on a high school offensive lineman? Why? Unless you have a 5-star or 4 or 5-star kid, the kids that are 2 and 3 stars are not, the Jeff Hardingses of this world are not going to get recruited by Penn State anymore. They're going to have to go make their bones at a smaller, less than power, or non-power 5 conference, the group of 5 conference, get the starting experience in it, and then they can transfer portal up their way in. That's how, in my opinion, how it's going to be. A lot of guys are going to go make their bones in the non-power 5 conferences. I mean, we got a kid coming in from Kent State who's one of the top. He obviously was not a top recruit 3 years ago or 2 years ago when he was coming out of high school, right? The fact that he went to Kent State.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that James has a pretty good feeling about this transfer portal thing, and that's when it's like going to the supermarket. You're going to go pick and choose what you want now. Okay, we're a little short on the interior offensive lineman. Go out and target the top 5 interior linemen in the transfer portal.
But you tell me, because instinctively, I think you've got to be really careful there. I hear what you're saying in terms of development, but more than any other unit on the football field, right? Like you need that cohesion and you need to have a feel and knowledge of what everybody on that line is doing or is supposed to be doing on every play. Yeah. And there is a little different feel, even if you have replacing one 5-star with another 5-star, there's just a little, the timing's going to be just a little different with each guy. And I'm not saying I don't know how long that takes to make an adjustment. Maybe you can do it if you're experienced within a week or two. But I think, the longer you have a group playing together,
Absolutely.
And can sustain that same group, the easier it is to make adjustments and kind of coordinate things within that.
I played next
unit.
to Jeff for 3 years. Okay, and I played next to Jeff, and then played next to Kyle Brady. I was the luckiest player in the history of college football.
Well, you were never able to rely on Harding that whole time, right? You never did get that trust factor with him.
I never really had it, But we were to the point there within our first or second year where we were not having to make calls, and when we were making calls, we were making dummy calls just to screw with the defensive ends, the defensive linemen, and that's what you're talking about, cohesiveness. So just something as simple as a combination block where your backside, you're going to scoop or slip the backside D tackle, you're going to knock Jeff off, and he's going to go up to the next level to the linebackers. It's timing. I knew that Jeff was going to have that kid's shoulders turned very quick because he was Jeff Harding's, and I better get my ass there real quick or this kid's going to slip between us, and Jeff's going to, he's going to split us and make a tackle. Sort of like when a new quarterback comes in, there's a little bit microsecond difference in their cadences maybe. So you are right. There is playing next to a guy and learning his nuances and stuff like that, and trusting in each other, and getting to know what he's good at, or what you're good at, type of thing, and what you're both good at. But it is. We have struggled along the offensive line in the last few years. We have made some big time progress this year. We can make that same type of leap that we had from last season to this season. I mean, that's your next level right there. Then you might be one of the top 5 offensive lines if that's the case. So there is no perfect the recipe of how many imports do you want, how many transfer portal guys, how many recruiting guys you want. But that's just how I was thinking earlier about the guys that are 1s and 2s and 3-star recruits. You're not going to go get Power 5 conference bids now. The group of 5, you're not going to get them. Do you understand what I'm saying, though?
I do. But I wonder how much that really is going to be the case versus because you've got to be bringing in offensive linemen every. You've got to bring. These days, truthfully, you've got to be bringing in every position every year. Because.
And then you can't trust the players either because you don't know what they're thinking if they might be jumping out.
Yes, and that's the that's the other thing. The difficulty in building and sustaining depth, right? Like every program wants to have depth.
Sure.
The problem is if you have a guy, if you've established the depth, and Kevon Lee is a great example. Kevon Lee is a terrific running back. Was really good as that what he ended up being the third guy, started as the guy, and I'm not and I don't know that it's guaranteed that Lee's guy. I know he's in the transfer portal, but I still think there's a chance that he ends up and I no inside information. I just think that he's testing the waters, and he may very well find another spot that he feels he fits in better with, but I still think there's a chance that he comes back here and says, I'll have reduced carries. But even if the NFL is your ultimate goal, as you've said, the NFL will find you, and you're going to have some opportunities, even with Singleton and Allen next year, to have some chances to showcase your skills. But where I'm going with this is from a depth standpoint.
Yep.
Again, you want that next man up mentality, and let's go 2 or 3 deep. It is. It's always been difficult to establish depth, especially beyond the 2 deep, but more so now than ever, because if you have a guy that is good enough that you truly feel comfortable putting him in there in the starting lineup, if somebody needs a breather then they're good enough to start at a school like Penn State or any of the other top 30, 40 programs, really. Then again, do I want to be the guy that a Penn State relies on anytime the guy needs a break, or do I want to go be the guy somewhere else?
Well, I have a question. When did the portal start? Do you remember?
4 years ago, 5 years. I don't.
It's a nice little segue to the Giants-Eagles game right now, but would 5-6 years ago, Miles Sanders would have boogied out pretty much when he saw that Saquon was going to be the man.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
I don't know.
Or would he have stayed to provide the depth type of thing and saying,
And
you know
looking
what?
at his ultimate opportunity.
Yeah, the ultimate opportunities in the NFL. Obviously, it worked out. He's an all-pro.
And that's the thing. I don't think there's, because we've seen guys that have stayed at Penn State even through the transfer portal that, certainly had a chance if they wanted to go elsewhere.
It's very interesting. I mean, it really, really is.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to individuals, and part of it is, what is your ultimate objective to get out of your collegiate experience? And that's not going to be the same for everybody. I mean, everybody wants to win and everybody wants to get to the next level and all of that. But within that, is it more important that I get playing time and, have fun by being out on the field during the 4 years of eligibility that I have? Is it more important that I just have the education? Is the school that I committed to just being part of that a big deal? And coaches are make no mistake, that's a part of the equation too. And it's why I think the stability, Stubblefield notwithstanding, that this coaching staff is seemingly going to have, and I feel pretty confident now is it will have from this past season of the next. I do think that's part of the equation in terms of feeling like this has an opportunity at least to be a special season upcoming.
And it goes back to what I mentioned this about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and that is we were extraordinarily fortunate to have a very, very significant number 2 quarterback. Now, depth is a significant issue with this transfer portal thing, specifically at quarterback.
Yeah.
So you go and just use the running back combination. Okay, we have a nice 1-2 combo right now. That's beautiful. One of those guys goes down or leaves. You don't have that. They're not going to have the same kind of depth. So, okay, we had Aller this year as a backup. That's a fantastic opportunity, but if you don't say next year you have Aller, I mean, you better have a hell of a. And
Veyu was the third option. I mean, that was fantastic. You had,
exactly.
I mean, you felt really good, but 3 deep.
It scares me to think about that. The headhunting days of quarterbacks may come back, and that is you cut the head off, the body's going to follow. If you knock that quarterback out of that game, the old Florida State mid-90s, where they used to talk about it. They used to talk about knocking quarterbacks out of games. That was their thing. And you're not going to be as good a team with your second team quarterback. And if these guys are transferring all around here because they won starting jobs and you don't have depth, it is a significant issue at all positions.
Yeah, well, and that's why, again, I mean, you can make the argument that's always been the case. You need to recruit every position every year. But, I mean, you really do. Now, some years there's going to be more needs for certain positions. But, I mean, I don't think you can go a year and say, okay, well, we have, a stable of 4 or 5 running backs, so we're good. Well, if you have a stable of 4 or 5 running backs, the chances of all 4 or 5 of those guys being there 2 years from now, I mean, if you truly feel comfortable with the guys that you have, meaning that you think they can go out and produce for you, again, the chances of 4 or 5 guys staying is pretty much zilch. And we've seen it. You get a run of injuries, and it takes an injury or 2 at a position, and all of a sudden you are really testing the depth, right? And there are not many teams or programs, to your point, moving forward, that are going to be able to go 3 deep. With, again, guys that you feel confident and comfortable
that, and they're going to attack that. It's definitely out there. That it's a possibility. And it's scary to think about that. We're going to go back to those days. And so,
but the rules are such now. I mean, you're.
Well, you better have depth at linebacker if you're going to go out headhunting and get kicked out of the game. So, so what the transfer portal has done is it's watered down the field the way the 105 to 85 scholarship should have done. How's that sound? When they were saying you lose 20 scholarships, there's 20 scholarships from Penn State that are going to go probably to a Pitt or a Temple or a Lesser, and then those 20 that they're going to lose are going to go to the MAC schools type of thing, So they were trying to do that for years. And this has really, really done it, where you're going to get some considerable talent at these lower levels, and they're just going to be minor leagues for the big boys. Like us going in and raiding Kent State with their best wide receiver.
Yes, and that's the other,
That's good for a player to have that opportunity, to be honest with you. Just hear me out here. Our buddy Brandon Noble, his son was a tight end at Temple. He just could not get an opportunity. So go play at a MAC school. Go prove that you can play fullback, tight end, halfback, outside linebacker, whatever. Just go out there and prove it at that level of Division I. It's still Division I football, but it's a non-Power 5 conference, group of 5. You know what? You go out there and you start playing and you start balling, they will come after you.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think about, but that's what some of these guys need is a shot. And maybe they will start getting shots now. Rather than, he didn't go to a good high school. He wasn't big enough. He wasn't strong enough. He wasn't fast enough type of thing. Now I'm proving myself at a Division I level against an Ohio State, against a Michigan in the first couple games of the year. Never know.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and that's, again, at the end of the day, I'm not 100% sure I know many of us old school feels like a bad thing. I don't know that it's necessarily bad or good. It's just different, and it's the way it is going to be moving forward. And you just, you either adjust or you're going to get left behind. Again, you can complain about it, but
I mean, I want to know, and I have some answers for that, and that is when a guy does go to the transfer portal, like you just said, Trayvon, is it Trayvon? The running back?
Kevon Lee.
Yeah. So is he working out with the team? Is he in school? Is he eating with our team? Is he still? We're in school right now, and he just entered the transfer portal. What's he going to do? Leave mid-semester? No, because he can't transfer somewhere and start school late, right? It's a weird thing.
Very difficult. I mean,
I wouldn't want if you're not on my team. I don't want you in my. I don't want you in my weight room. I don't want you in my dining hall. That's just how I feel. But again, I mean, a lot of the old school feelings that you no longer have those anymore, because I guess that everybody could be in that opportunity in that position. I would be interested to see that. I'll get to the bottom of this, Jeff. I'll get to the bottom of this because I'd like to see if he is working out with a team. Is he on scholarship? Is he still on campus?
I think he would be because part of it is that. Like I said, I mean, he could still ultimately just stay here, and so it's almost
what makes me think because you said that.
Yeah, you're almost in the recruiting process now. I suspect with some of these kids, I don't think in Kevon Lee's case, but I mean, in some cases, the coaches are saying, "Yes, we will help you in any way we can." Here you go.
Remember what I said?
We'll make sure you get you out of here. But in other cases, listen, the coaches are probably going to the kids and saying, listen,
not happening.
We want you to stay. Is there anything we can do, within reason to get you to stay? I mean, we do appreciate you, right? Like, and
do you
so
think
and that
coaches
conversation,
are saying, hey, it's not happening here? Move on?
Oh, I think in some cases, yeah. For sure.
That stinks because it's like, you made me an offer for 4 or 5 years.
Well, I don't think they're saying you have to, but I'm saying if the kid is coming and saying, listen, am I going to get playing time? I think the coach, can be
I'm
honest.
Saying our current kid
say,
is Franklin saying to them, like, hey, got a new kid coming in. You should move on. Are they doing that? Are they pressuring them to leave or just being like, well, you're not going to play next year.
I doubt that they're pressuring them to leave, but I'm sure they're like
you're not playing next year.
Yeah, they're being up front with them. And hey, if you want to go elsewhere, I mean, I don't know that they're telling them, listen, you need to get out of here. But I suspect they're saying, listen, let's be realistic. Look at the depth chart. If you want to go, we will certainly help you. And that being said, if you want to stay, if you have the right mindset and you're committed to us, I don't think you're looking to get rid of a kid that wants to be here so badly that he's okay with being third or fourth on the depth chart, right? Like I don't think But that being said, that it's always competitive at that level of athletics, at any level of athletics, but especially as you move up and, certainly big time college football. And so, one of the things that I think you just need to be aware of as kids too, is that because you had a good season or you were the start of this past season doesn't mean and I mean, there's been plenty of examples. I mean, Alabama and Clemson quarterbacks come leaping to mind. But I mean, again, you can have a great resume, a great skill set, and have accomplished stuff. And all of these coaches, all of these programs, if they have a chance to upgrade, they're going to go do it. because their ultimate responsibility is to the program in terms of winning, not to individual kids. And I don't mean that they're not committed to individual kids in terms of helping them and developing them, but I'm talking about in terms of being the starter and being the guy. That's not the obligation of the coaching staff, and it never has been, but I mean it's even more so now. And I think that's part of the ever changing landscape is, hey, I'm a 2-year starter. I know I'm going to be the guy. Well, do you? Because if there's a guy out there that we can, whether it's an incoming recruit or a transfer coming in that we feel is better, as good as you've been, if you're a top 10 kid and we feel like we can get the top guy or one of the top 3, we're going to go get one of the top 3.
What do you think Lincoln Riley did when he went to USC last year? He went to those quarterbacks and said, move on.
Yeah.
I'm bringing my own guy.
Yep.
And that's crazy thing.
And it's worked out pretty good.
Is it better?
Yeah, again, I don't know.
Crazy, right?
The old school in me is going to say no, but the old school pro sports fans will tell you that free agency ruined professional sports. It's you can argue that all you want.
We're professional. It's professional sports now.
It's not going back. Yeah, and again, you either adjust and understand that this is the way it is and compete, or you become an also-ran and you can sit around and be disgruntled all you want. But the reality is the game has changed.
It's changed, progressed. Is it regressed, progressed, whatever? Is it better for the player, better for the coach, better for the university? Is it better for the viewer? Who knows? Who really knows?
And the thing is, I think overall, Goon, it's the same as it's always been. There are some that this is really going to benefit players, some coaches that this is really going to benefit. There's going to be some players that this really rakes them over the coals. There's going to be some coaches that get raked over the coals. But again, that's always been the case, right? Like if you've gotten stuck in a program as an athlete where the coach just doesn't give you the opportunity to showcase your talent in the way that you're capable of. Stetson Bennett's a great example. I mean, that kid kept pounding on the door, and obviously, knew what he was talking about. I mean, there's plenty of kids that may have that type of confidence, but to then go out and produce the way he has. But I mean, you really do. I mean, how many kids out there, and I don't think there's a ton, but there are other kids for sure that are out there that we'll never know about that because they just never got the opportunity, and vice versa. Other kids that are given 3 or 4 opportunities and just can never produce for a wide variety of reasons at that level.
I got here in 1991. There we had Tony Sacca was the starting quarterback, and then we had 3 backups that all became Division I starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, Johnny Sacca left, and then the guy named Danny White left and became he was the quarterback for Arizona for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'd say the best thing that's going to happen out of this, and that is that you are going to see well-coached teams win titles. It's no longer, Coach Prime and everybody's saying, oh, this and that. You can have 22 5-star recruits, but when it comes down to you're playing a good team, you better have your X's and O's down.
I will say, I do think you're going to have an opportunity here too. And we'll see. Well, and to some degree, I think you saw it with TCU even this year, where you're going to have, those teams that will come together because they have a bunch of 4th and 5th year seniors that have been there and gone through everything together. The Alabamas and even the Penn States now, the Ohio States, it's going to be high-end talent,
absolutely,
consistently that keeps them in the mix.
Coach them, better mold them, better.
I think you will have, because a lot of those the top end kids are going to be 3 years of eligibility and done, and I do think you're going to have those opportunities for teams to just be able to come together. They have that cohesion, and over 4 or 5 years, be able to build something that can compete with those other teams just because of the chemistry that they're able to develop. I mean, we've seen Penn State basketball was was an example of that. With Tyler Smith and that crew was. I mean, it was and a bunch of the other teams that clearly had superior talent, but they were losing. It's just like Kentucky basketball. But they have to get the top end talent every year.
Yep. And
again, I think you're going to see teams like you had with TCU. I don't think it's going to be the norm, but I think you're going to have that periodically.
When State College High School goes down and plays St. Joe's Prep in Philadelphia, and you're going against literally 5-star high school recruits, up and down, and you're a local team going down there and getting smacked around, and it's not anything fair. And that's what the title game ended up being this year, because TCU was the local team, the local public school team that grew up together. They came together. They had this bond with their guys and stuff like that, and they went up against a team full of 5-stars, and they were believing. That Georgia team, I did some reading on that, and they were convinced that TCU was going to come out and jump them. So they were running scared, and you could tell that the way that they jumped.
They
TCU.
were dialed in. Yeah, I mean that team, to its credit,
Georgia was ready to go for that game. They were not looking past TCU like Michigan did.
Yeah,
and they went out and got their game plan, and they performed, and they got it done. So, all right, NFL.
Yep.
I saw a stat the other day. I couldn't believe what I saw. And that's Trevor Lawrence has never lost a game he played on a Saturday. Now, I don't know how many games he played in high school on a Saturday. I know I played some high school games on Saturdays. Yeah. Never lost a game on a Saturday in the NFL, in college. And lo and behold, he's a 9-point underdog against the Kansas City Chiefs this Saturday in Kansas City. And I'm telling you, I have a freaking feeling that these guys, the game's on up here. You can't play as bad as he did in that first half.
It was unbelievable.
And the momentum they built with that comeback, that's going to pay dividends. Now, physically, can they handle Kansas City? Their defense better keep Mahomes. I mean, their defense can play a little bit.
Yeah.
If they can contain Mahomes, they got a shot.
Yeah. No, I think they definitely have a puncher's chance. And listen, the week off, while everybody wants it, right?
You can get a little rusty.
Yes, and which side of the ball does it affect? Much more often than not, right? Yeah, and so we'll see. I am not. I think Kansas City wins that game.
Yes,
but I won't be stunned.
Lock of the week. Jaguars,
I won't be stunned if the Jags win it, and I will be rooting for Jacksonville just because I want somebody new.
Yes.
That being said, I don't think Jacksonville deserves an NFL team, but that's another subject for another day.
I don't think LA deserves two. Let's just say that.
Well, that's no argument.
That brings
there
us into
either.
the Saturday night game, which is an easy pick for both of us, obviously. I mean, we have some Giants fans in the crowd here who are booing me, but you know what? I mean, you listen to the Giants fans. The game's already over. They already won it. They're so whatever.
No, the Eagles did have a good season.
Birds by 1,000.
It was a good run.
Birds by 1,000.
I do think that one is going to be a very competitive game. I do think the Giants are playing their best football of the season. But when that Eagles team is special, and what Jalen Hurts has been able to do, and the consistency with which he's been able to produce. And listen, there's just an even. You've talked about it from day one with how he handled everything at Alabama, and then the success he had at Oklahoma, and he is just an even-keeled guy, and. At first, that is what wins you.
When he was at Alabama, when he was young, I couldn't stand him because I was like, he is freaking emotionless.
Yeah.
He was emotionless, and I couldn't stand it. And then you see what happens when they replace him with Tua, and he still stays there. And like I said, he's my favorite college football player because of how he handled himself and everything he's happening right now. He's been great. But you talk about a rust factor. He's played one game in the last 40 or 50 days.
Yep. And I'm telling you, Daniel Jones is playing some really good football right now.
Yes, he is. So the Eagles defense, Jacksonville's defense and the keys to those two games.
And listen, the other part of it, though, is that the Giants now, because of that passing game, and Saquon Barkley talked about it at the press conference this week.
It opened him up.
But he's not having to take the pounding that he was either. He's not touching the ball.
He looked fresh.
Yeah, and he's not touching the ball, 25, 30 times. It's less than 20 now.
And he's not got the guy in his face. And Daniel Jones passing, but Daniel Jones running has helped out Saquon.
Big time.
I mean,
yeah, I think that's an intriguing game.
By 50.
I like the Eagles, but I do think that's an intriguing game.
Okay,
the most intriguing game, though, is the Bengals and the Bills because of what happened and didn't happen at the end of the season. And the most interesting thing to me has been watching the talking heads nationally talk about the Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow matchup. And it is a fascinating matchup between, I don't know, you can rank them whatever order you want, but they're clearly two of the top five at the very least. I would argue probably right at the moment, two of the top three quarterbacks in the NFL. But, this Bills team, obviously, a lot of fans have their heartstrings being pulled, understandably and rightfully so.
Day, man.
But this Bengals team does have just a different confidence and swagger about it, and Burrow has a different confidence and swagger about him. And again, I may be off-putting to some. It's Joe Namath-esque in terms of just the confidence standpoint. I mean, Burrow's game is obviously better than Namath's ever was, but this game is just fascinating to me on a number of different fronts because Cincinnati, I think that offensive line is yes, and is going to be a problem. Yep. But you turn around, how could it be a bigger problem than what it was a year ago?
But
and the Bengals got to the Super Bowl.
I forgot Von Miller got hurt earlier in the season for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Oh yeah, the injuries that they've. I mean, the number of situations and. Tough circumstances the Bills have gone through. I don't know. That game, I'm pulling for Buffalo. Yep. If you pin me down and put truth serum in me, I'm kind of expecting Cincinnati to find a way to win it, but I'm really rooting for Buffalo. No, but
I was not impressive at all over Miami.
No, but I got to tell you, I didn't think the Bengals were all that impressive either.
In the fourth quarter, they were horrendous when their offensive line got hurt. They could not run the ball. They could not protect him, and it was just like, Buffalo is going to do that from the start. Now, Leslie Frazier is the defense coordinator for the Bills, has a little history of not coming up huge in big games.
Yeah.
Interesting to see how that works because it's so weird because McDermott is a defensive coach. Did you see that stat of all the teams left? 10 teams or 8 teams left? Right?
Yeah, 8 teams.
8 teams left. 7 of the head coaches are offensive backgrounds.
Yeah.
McDermott's the only one with the defensive background. That's crazy to think about in this league because they always say what wins titles. Defense wins titles, right?
Yeah.
We shall see. So, Cincinnati, if their 3 linemen that got hurt this past week come back and play, they have a fighter's chance because Joe Burrow can do that, and they have some great wide receivers. But it's in Buffalo. I got to go with the Bills in that one. But, again, the Bills – they have a history of not showing up in these games defensively, so it will be interesting to see who shows up in that game. And then the big one, obviously, is the Cowboys at the Niners. I mean, what are your feelings there? Because I have my feelings.
Yeah, I just think San Francisco
and hateful.
Well, I mean, I'm a Cowboys hater, so that obviously cannot help but creep into my my thoughts on the game. But I also really do think San Francisco is as complete a team as there is, with the possible exception of the Eagles in terms of just being really solid in all areas. I do think their defense is special, and obviously Micah Parsons and the Dallas defense is nothing to sneeze at. I do think it's going to be a really fun game. I think Prescott is certainly. That game last week was the best I've seen him look in an individual game.
They beat up an 8-9 team.
But I think the 49ers win this thing.
Correct.
I think they're the better all-around football team.
If Dallas can put the pressure that they put on Tom Brady on Brock Purdy, I want to see how Purdy reacts.
Yeah.
Because they played in December, and he was pressuring them pretty good, and he did not play that well. I like the Niners in that game. So there is one stat that I did see that the Bengals have gone the last 2 times they've gone to the Super Bowl, maybe the last 3 times, they've won in Buffalo and then lost to the 49ers in the Super Bowl. So they did that the last 2 times. They didn't lose to the 49ers last year, but in the Joe Montana era, they had to go to Buffalo, beat Buffalo in Buffalo, and then they go and play the 49ers in the Super Bowl and lose. So think about it. It's out there.
We will see. Lots to digest this sports weekend. Looking forward to all of it.
You got 10 pin calls coming Friday night, baby.
And we will talk about all of it when next we get together on Tuesday here at Quaker Steak and Lube. Until then, be good and be safe.